Okay, time to go check out Eastern Oregon. From Ashland, Oregon to Rome Station, it's a quick 7 hour drive through tall trees, mountains, marsh, and miles of sagebrush. One thing to think about when you're coming out this way is you will go hours and hours with no cell service. Car charging, food, and gasoline are all things you should also plan out when traveling in Eastern Oregon. As you can see, the scenery changes quickly and dramatically with the Steen Mountains in the background there. And after 7 hours of driving, we started to see the rock formations that are around Rome Station. Rome Station is a cool little place with a good menu at the cafe, internet at the cafe, a couple of RV slots, and 3 cabins. If you bring your Tesla, make sure you bring your charging cable, and you can charge in the RV slots for $15. Once we were there, we realized that the Pillars of Rome were only 10-minute drive, so we hopped in the cruiser and went down a really nice smooth gravel road, and there they were. We were catching them at sunset here. You can drive virtually any car down this road. It's nice and smooth and goes right up the middle, so you can see all the pillars just from your car. But if you have a 4-wheel drive, there's a little knoll right in the middle of the trip, and if you have some good tires, you can climb up on it. It gives you a very panoramic view of the whole valley. Since the pillars didn't take a lot of time to visit, we found ourselves with a couple hours of daylight left. So we went back to the cafe, got on Google Maps, and found ourselves the old Ion Highway, the Idaho-Oregon-Nevada Highway, which was built in 1860. So a quick trip across the 100-year-old bridge, and we were headed for the highway. I think the bridge limit was 5 tons, and we were 3.5, so close enough. But once again, Oregon is just full of epic scenery, and the bridge and the highway were no different. So down the road we went, and at the other side of the bridge you basically find yourself driving right through somebody's ranch. So you go through the ranch, you turn to the right, and here it is, the Ion Highway. At this point it got pretty rocky and loose and steep, so ground clearance was a good idea, and the Land Cruiser had quite a bit of it. Looks like that was probably the last guy that drove down here. But exactly what you might expect for a highway that was built a long time ago. So the guys at the cafe did mention that it had rained unexpectedly a couple nights ago, and we didn't think much about it till we got out there. We spent a few minutes getting to know some of the locals here and waiting for them to move, but they finally relented and let us through. And as we rolled along, we found the road was a bit wetter than we thought. There were puddles, as long as there were hard edges on them that could keep a couple wheels on the dry ground, we were good. So
here we go.
Here's one that it was pretty deep, pretty muddy, but it had a hard edge, so no problem.
Go, truck, go.
And we were losing daylight, so we were rolling along pretty quick, and I figured it was a good idea to act like we knew what we were doing and get some air out of the tires so we didn't pound the Land Cruiser to death. Because it was either rough, dried, hard mud or really greasy, slippery mud that would send you sideways when you hit the puddles. Since there was no cell service, Google Maps was sporadic. We left the food at the hotel, and we were losing daylight. It would have been a good idea to turn around at this point, especially when we came up to this lake. Oh, this is a okay idea.
Turn right.
Turn right. Since Google Map had chimed in again, it appeared that we were on a quest to find Bogus Ranch Road, and this would take us back to pavement. So we got ourselves aimed in the right direction and started flooring it for the pavement and tried to get out of there before the sun went down. But every once in a while, Google Maps would chime in again and try to send us to our doom. After the last Google Maps directions, it basically sent us through a river, so we shut it off and found our own way out.
Alright, that was pretty deep.
That's kind of deep. So right at sunset, we popped back out on pavement just 6 miles away, and when we hit the pavement, the sun just went below the horizon. To our surprise, when we got back to the cabin, 3 great horned owls were waiting for us. So day 2, it's time to head to Leslie Gulch. About 1 hour from Rome Station, you cut off onto the gravel road, and from that point, it takes about 1 hour to get to the bottom of Leslie Gulch. Once again, it's a pretty smooth gravel road. Most any car with reasonable all-season tires would be fine to bring down here. So don't be scared to come and visit this place. I'll just let the scenery roll by for a while. It's really hard to take in everything you see down here. Every corner just reveals more and more. Finally reach the bottom, it's a bit of a surprise to see the big lake down here. There's a reservoir that you can put a boat on. There are a couple guys that had drug boat trailers down there, and I didn't expect that. We jumped in, took a little swim to cool off. We were there in June. It wasn't too bad. It was warm, but not too bad. And on the way back up, we stopped at Juniper Gulch and took a little hike. Once again, the scenery is very dramatic, and if you hike in far enough, you will find this guy. It looks like a face to us, and most people call him the troll, but he's hiding back in Juniper Gulch. If you walk back far enough, you can see him. And then on to Succor Creek. When you come back out of Leslie Gulch, don't go all the way out to the pavement. You can take a left and hop on over to Succor Creek. Once again, gravel roads, a little rougher, but amazing scenery the whole way down. Lots of places to stop and look down into the canyon, the creek, and then eventually the road winds its way down to the bottom, where there's campsites and you can play in the river and just enjoy the scenery, because it's amazing, as always. As you leave the canyon, you'll find a couple places that you can four-wheel drive up on top of, and when you're up there, it once again provides massively distant views of the canyon, and you're looking into Idaho, because when you pop out of the Succor Creek Road, you're in Idaho. So we turned around, went back to Rome Station, and spent another night. And the next day, we headed back towards Burns. We stopped at the Round Barn. It's a round barn. It's a Oregon State Heritage Site, and it's right in the middle of a marsh with lots of birds. So bring your binoculars and mosquito repellent. It's very marshy. And a short ways down the road, and a completely unmarked road, there is Diamond Crater.
Now do it.
You need to pay attention when you're walking around because all the rocks are loose. And you have lava flows and distant views. And this.
We're driving to the... I don't know where we're driving to. But look out. So we were just at the Diamond Crater lava bed. Now we're looking out over towards... I don't know where we're going. Oh my gosh. That is a drop off.
I might be backing out of here. We will be backing out of here. I might be able to all the way up. You feel the need to drive out on this thing, just be aware you will have to back off of it, so be careful. Next is the Malheur observation point. It's pretty, but the birds are far away and hard to see. Then we stopped by the Narrows restaurant and had a really nice lunch. Nice new clean cafe, good menu. Stopped by there. And then back to Burns, where we stayed at the Historic Central Hotel. If you're from Portland, this place is very much in the McManaman style. It's a self check-in. Your phone number opens the front door and opens your room. And all the rooms the whole place has been recently redone. No TVs. The whole hotel is meant for everybody to socialize. There's a speakeasy, which is really cool. It's done in the old, period correct kind of styling. Yeah, I really like this whole place. It was just neat. And out back, there was a massive amount of decks, patios, raised decks, a bar which wasn't open at the time. But you could have huge affairs here. And we wound up sitting by the fire most of the evening and hanging out with a bit of a sketchy biker gang there that made me drink too much beer and stay up past my bedtime. So these guys are a lot of fun. Glad we met them. And I forget, they were riding back home the next day, so we spent an evening gabbing away at the fire. The all-road Triumphs. And there they are, the motley crew. Next day we went to Frenchglen. It has a general store, a hotel, gas, and a coffee shop. You can actually have lunch and dinner there, but you need to make reservations. So after we left Frenchglen, we headed up the Steen Mountains. And the wild horses put on quite a show for us on our way up the mountain. We stopped by a water hole and just watched.
Always laying down.
After the horses, we had about 23 miles of washboard gravel once again to get up to where they had closed the gate on the Steen Mountain Loop. It wasn't open yet, and we found out later that they opened it the next day. But we got to this place, so it was still a pretty good drive. You go up like a quarter mile short of the gate, and there's this little trail. And you walk down this trail a couple hundred yards, and this is what you see. Epic, as always. And in the far distance, if the gate was open, that's where we would actually be able to drive to. So we would see this view from the other end of the valley. And this is the Steen Mountain Loop. After we popped out of the Steen Mountains, we decided we were going to Field Station. It's a tiny, tiny place just north of Nevada.
Field Station.
Field Station. I guess this is
there it is. Yay! Made it. Through thick and thin.
Field Station has a 2-room hotel, a cafe with some good food, convenience store, gas and diesel. If you want 91 octane, it was $8.25 a gallon. So keep that in mind. From there, we headed up the east side of the Steen Mountains, and it was beautiful. It wasn't too long till we got to the Alvord Desert. This place is quite interesting. You can drive out on it, and whatever vehicle you take, you can just let it rip. You can go any speed you want to. I don't really know if there's any rules or not, but it's something to keep in mind when you're driving around out there, that somebody might be trying out their new 200-mile-an-hour motorcycle. This guy was pretty far away, but if he's going fast, he'll come up on you quick, so you need to watch out. Or you could just have the misfortune of getting run over by some idiot seeing how fast his Land Cruiser would go. But as you spin around and look at the mountains from out on the flats, I mean, they could be the Swiss Alps. It's just that pretty out there. It's not sand. It's some crusty, hard-packed minerals. I don't really know what it's made of. Once we finished misbehaving out on the flats, we got back on the washboard gravel road and headed back to Burns. And here's the scenery along the way. We spent one more night in the Central Hotel before we headed back to Ashland. And here's a list of all the places we saw on this trip. So see you next time.